Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Whatever, Whenever, the show where we talk about whatever we want, whenever we want. I am Robin.
And I'm the Mentok, the whenever part of the podcast.
Which makes me the whatever.
What do we got on the docket for this week?
Well, uh, earlier, a few episodes ago, we mentioned doing an episode all about Sonic.
Oh
And,
boy!
yep, I think that's our episode. So, as the local Sonic the Hedgehog expert, I'm imagining Ricky putting up that picture of the guy from Sonic Unleashed who says, "I am well acquainted with the Sonic lore," or something like that. Yeah, as the local Sonic expert, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so just to put my credentials out there, I have a growing YouTube channel that was initially going to be variety content, and then I've just kind of pigeonholed myself into Sonic content. I think I've managed to get like-minded Sonic fans to, come together into this one YouTube channel or whatever that's still growing a little bit. Um,
Yeah,
but I grew up with being a huge fan of Sonic, and just like everyone else, once you become a fan of something, you go down huge rabbit holes you didn't think you'd end up in, and you start learning facts that people are like, well, how do you know that, or why do you know that? It's like, well, why do you know where Kim Kardashian is staying tonight? Like how, so get off my back. No, I'm just kidding. No one's really put me in that position, but my point being, like, over the years, I've just followed all the news and stuff like that because I think that he's such a fascinating character with an amazing design and, like, a lot of potential. I'm not gonna shirk, the classic games because they were hugely successful, and I think a lot of people still play those to this day, to the point where he was actually more popular than Mario for like a few years. Um, but now we're in this area where I think that the whole series, like, there was a huge dip in quality in these games, and then there's a huge point after that where a new generation is growing up to be fans of him now. And I think that they're definitely not looking at Sonic 06 like these 35 plus IGN people or these YouTubers that leave reviews all the time. Like, well, he was off to a horrible start back in 2006. Like, um, so I guess I wanted to do a podcast to talk about the state of the series. Um, Robin over here actually knows more about the Archie comics than I do. But I've been doing a
yes,
lot of
sir.
research on those Archie comics, and the more and more I learn about it, the more mind blown I am about how far they took those story arcs.
Yeah,
So I guess that is the point of today's podcast. I know someone asked for a Sonic podcast, and I think that we need to talk about a few things, and I want to talk about the future of it too, like what's happening this year in regards to Sonic. And what news has come out of that, because we do have a new movie on the way and a brand new open world game that people seem to be pretty excited about. And I'll say what I know about that game in particular, my thoughts on it too. So I guess we'll start with a question to you, Robin. What was your first Sonic game, and when did you play it?
um, I think, funnily enough, it was Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood
Oh
for
shit!
Nintendo DS.
Oh
Yeah,
shit!
because I was like, I've never played a Sonic game. I hear people talking about how cool Sonic is. So then I got it and I liked it because it's an RPG
Mm-hmm.
and I have a simple taste. But I think I played that when I was maybe around 10 or something. I just remember it was like, for the longest time, it was the only Sonic game I had until I got Sonic Colors, which was also on the DS.
Okay. So
So
that game in particular is this weird idea that came out of the 2010s. I think that was 2009 it dropped, I believe.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was like late 2000s.
Strangely enough, like BioWare, who's most popular for Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and Jade Empire before that, and the Knights of the Old Republic game, they decided to take on a Sonic game, which was pretty fascinating to me because I didn't see them use any licensed franchises before that. So it seemed like a very weird mix, but that game seemed like it would answer the call of something that I've been looking for a long time, like something that really just dove into the personality of the characters and like brought them in certain situations and scenarios that a story would be built off of. There's a lot of people that would disagree that, oh, why does Sonic need a story? They want, like, there's some people who want it to be very purist. They want it to be like Mario, where um, Eggman, you know, hatches up a plan and Sonic stops him, and that's the end of it. But I think honestly that there's so much personality in all those characters that people really want to see them be explored, and I think the adventure games was a perfect hybrid of that. Sonic Dark Brotherhood was an interesting story, but like I think that the gameplay um, was just way too intense. This is on the DS where you had to like use the stylus to move things around and guide like these pointers to have them do like the perfect techniques, and almost 80% of the time the attacks missed, which created this like
Yeah.
this weird difficulty loop that was hard to overcome. Um, and then the music was absolute trash as well. It was like MIDI files. But for
Yeah,
the most part, I like what they were trying to do or try to accomplish with that game.
I think the story behind the music was that they had like a whole like orchestra thing done, but then like someone accidentally stuck a magnet on like the PC that had the music files or something, and that messed it up. So they
Oh
just went with
Lord,
what they had. Yeah.
this is
So
before
they
we were
just had.
dealing with clouds. I think it was like
I
around
think
the time
so.
where
Yeah.
cloud based things were just getting popular. Like,
Yeah, it was like before that stuff existed, I think. So.
well, RIP to
But yeah.
those songs. I kind of wish someone like recovers that hard drive and it works so that we get like
Yeah.
the what was intended.
Yeah, I mean, even for like as like I look back to that music and I'm like, wow, a lot of this is crap, but like I still get like the tunes stuck in my head from that game sometimes, just because of how like short and looped they are.
Yeah, you
Like the
can
battle,
hear the
the
loop too. That's
yeah,
the funny part.
yeah, like the battle theme, I get like. I get that stuck in my head sometimes, and I'm like, wow, where is this from?
The worst compressed guitars I've heard in a game ever. It's awful. It's terrible. Um,
Yeah.
but like it's interesting because I remember when people were playing it on E3, it got like the most anticipated handheld RPG release, or maybe even like RPG release at the time. Like, I don't know, like things are always so weird with Sonic games because very similarly to Sonic 06. I think I brought this up on stream a lot. Um, when Sonic 06 released, a lot of people weren't bashing the game, believe it or not. Um,
Yeah.
People were saying, "Oh, these graphics are nice. This is interesting. I like this gameplay aspect. It's a little glitchy at times." And then all of a sudden, it got negative reviews, which it deserved. I'm not saying it was a good game, um, but there was a lot of value to certain aspects to it.
Yeah.
Um, so at that time, people were saying, okay, well, this wasn't as good as I thought. Like the hype train was real, and like this kind of disappointed me. That's what was happening at the time. And then at some points, it was just the favorite game for everybody to bash. And then it started popping up on the worst games ever released, um, title, well, YouTube videos or whatever.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that just taking a look at that and watching it happen in real time, it's one of those instances where it was just one of those games. By word of mouth, people decided to bash in like the most
Yeah.
negative way possible. Even like over 15 years after the fact, people are still talking about that game.
And I think that YouTube kind of plays a part in that, because I think the Sonic 06 is the worst game ever made narrative started popping up more after the Game Grumps played it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then people also started bashing on Sonic Adventure after Pro Jared made that infamous video.
Yeah. I give you guys a challenge here. Like, click any of those old Sonic 06 reviews, and like the YouTuber is definitely gonna come out like, oh boy, why made we decide to do this one? And like, there's
Views,
yeah,
money,
yeah,
clickbait.
yeah. So, I honestly do not think it's the greatest game. But I'm kind of talking out of order here, but whatever. Let's address the Sonic 06 thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when I played it, I got it for the PlayStation 3, and was delayed. So the PlayStation 3 version was pushed back to maybe I think like January, February the next year. So technically
Yeah.
for me it was Sonic 07. But um, as I was playing the game, I actually I was a high schooler at the time, and I enjoyed it for the most part. Like did not run into many glitches. So I played somehow in the most optimal fashion where the game wasn't that bothersome to me. Like there was definitely game mechanics that worked against me, and there was areas that looked totally unfinished. But when I got to it, I'm like, wow, that was not that bad. And everybody talks about the little kiss, and they're just like, oh, bestiality. I'm just like, bro, this princess just pecked him on the cheek, and everybody's going crazy over this. Um, I'm not trying to downplay any of these mistakes. It's just I just think that the overreaction on the internet was unprecedented.
Yeah.
And of course, as you said, it was years after the fact.
Yeah.
When YouTube content became about outrage, and not in a parody type of way, like the angry video game nerd. It just became this thing where the outrage is real. Like I really have to be angry about this.
No, that's I think a lot of people didn't get the fact that Angry Video Game Nerd was a joke, and so they were like, I'm just gonna imitate that guy because he's angry at everything and he gets all these views, and they didn't realize that he was parodying people who get obsessed and angry over this stuff.
Right. I I used to cringe at all of those copycats. By the way, they just never got it right.
Yeah.
There were so many of them, and they could not pull it off because clearly you're copying somebody, right? And
Yeah.
if it's not within your own personality to be able to do that type of bit, it's gonna come off cringy. Clearly
Yeah.
you are overreacting on purpose.
I
And
think the most infamous out of all of those was Irate Gamer,
mm-hmm.
who, yeah, who sometimes he would just straight up steal things that the nerd had said in his videos.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
But I've heard that he's a pretty nice guy. I haven't watched a lot of his content at all, and they even did a crossover on his channel at some point. So after all that time, James
Yeah.
actually reached out, or he reached out to James, and they worked together on that, which I think is pretty cool. All things
Yeah.
considered.
Yeah, I think it is pretty cool.
And
that,
then you have people
they,
that go to the dark side of that type of content, like Nostalgia Critic, uh, which
I used to be such a big Nostalgia Critic fan, and now I just can't stand him.
something happened. Something happened.
I think after he tried to retire the character, and he realized that he can't because that's the only thing he's ever made that had any sense of popularity to it that people actually liked. Something in him just kind of broke a little, and he just became kind of cynical and bitter in some way.
Yeah,
This is me purely speculating. He seems like a nice guy, in interviews and stuff that I've seen him do. He seems like a genuinely nice guy, but I don't know, something about the way he plays the character now is definitely a lot different than how he used to play the character, I feel.
I think it's burnout. I think it's a mixture of wanting to do the content he wants to do, but stuck with
Yeah.
the content that made him popular. Um,
Yeah.
and then of course all the copyright stuff, he can't do the same format that he did a while back.
Yeah.
So just so everyone knows, Nostalgia Critic started. He used to sit at a desk in a room or whatever, and he would just review movies. He would show certain clips and react to those dumb moments in very shitty movies or shows. And then some of the jokes were cringy. Other times it was okay, I agree with you. I was more so watching it because I agreed with what he was saying despite the delivery.
Yeah.
And then he that would basically be the shtick. But then he started doing skits, and just went down this path that he, after the copyright strikes, he's like, all right, then I'm just gonna reenact the scenes. And then he has all these people that work with him in badly made wigs and costumes, and they would just have
Yeah.
these awkward scenes where they try to emulate the scene in the movie in the most cringe way. And it didn't really fit the format very well. And I think that was that was the step into the downfall of stuff, because clearly he wants to direct. but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, for sure.
But I digress and I get off topic here.
Yeah, we went way off. We introduced this to the Sonic episode, and then like 15 minutes in, it's like nostalgia critic, angry video game nerd, irate gamer.
We can't avoid YouTube, right? We can't avoid talking about
We
YouTubers in
can't
some form.
avoid it.
So
No,
here,
we can't.
I guess let me start with my first Sonic game, which was Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Genesis. I don't remember. It was my sister's game. I don't remember the time where she got that thing. It was just there one day. I remember things before the when she got it, but I don't remember. For some reason, I don't remember the event of a Sega Genesis like appearing in our household. It was just there in my mind, right?
It just appeared one day.
It just
maybe
appeared one day.
Maybe it was you from a future point from now who went back in time to get yourself a Sega Genesis.
Maybe hey kid, catch.
Bootstrap paradox. Classic bootstrap paradox.
Yeah, because I definitely wouldn't be here were it not for that Genesis. So
Yeah.
I think it was my first game was Sonic 2. I'd like to say it's Sonic 2. It could have been either that or the other game that we had, which was Acme All Stars, like Tiny Toon Adventures Acme All Stars, which is Sega Genesis game where Tiny Toons is an old cartoon at this point, but it was like university students that were studying under Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck who were professors there, whatever. Interesting show. But they made a game. They made a couple of games off of it, and that one was like a sports game where you could play basketball, soccer, or whatever. That may have been my first game, but I'm gonna say it's Sonic 2, just for the views. But yeah, so that was like my start of that relationship, and I think like honestly, when you look into like the classic lore and what they were trying to build, there was this huge disconnect between Sega of Japan and Sega of America. They wanted to market it in different ways to appeal to kids and teenagers or whatever. So you'll see like a difference in lore. The Americans didn't really give a shit about the lore too much for like the games that were coming out. They would just change the names of things and redesign Sonic on the box art to make him look more edgy. But then like they also gave a shit about the lore in a sense where they made this huge backstory about Sonic being a son of a dad that just suddenly died one day in a toxic waste accident, and then he meets this nice doctor named Kintabor who's studying like evil energy and how to destroy it from the world and make a world full of peace, and then an accident happens with an egg involved that turns him into Robotnik. So now he's egg shaped, and they wrote all of that with Sega Japan. It was just like, yeah, so there's a hedgehog that runs fast, and there's a doctor that's after him and animals. So
yeah, and they adapted that into the Fleetway comics, and then I think the Archie comics also made that a separate universe's explanation.
Right,
for Robotnik's.
I think it's a decent starting point.
Yeah.
Of course, all of that's retcon now, and that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. If there's any new origin story now, it's basically what you would see in the movie. Which more or less is just some guy who's obsessed with his goal and becomes evil with his obsession of catching Sonic and all that. So
yeah,
I think it's simple enough. But just like that era, like again, like similar to how I talked in the last podcast about Pokemon, Sonic was everywhere. And so was Mario, but like Sonic was everywhere. And seeing the cartoons on there and playing these games and trying to connect the lore of the two and the story, I think like I was just very fascinated with the world of Sonic more so than Mario. Like Mario, I don't know, like maybe that's the difference, because even at the same age, I was playing Mario games and I was never like, oh, well, what's that in the background and where, like what's happening here? Like I would always ask those questions about Sonic, but not about Mario. Like Mario was, let me get to the end of the stage and beat Bowser. With Sonic, I always felt like, well, why is Eggman doing this? And what is that city in the background of this level? And who lives there? And, I was always fascinated in that. And I think that, in a sense, laid that groundwork for people asking for more, like, story and character development for these characters. And I think that's the point. Like, I think that we're at that stage now Which is why I'm excited that Ian Flynn is actually the lead writer for the next game coming out. Because he actually does take care in those in that character development, I should say. And you should know a little bit about Ian Robbins since he was a big part of the Archie comics.
Yeah, I think I know. He was like, he worked on some of the Super Genesis Wave stuff after the reboot, right?
Yeah, so a lot of people didn't
Yeah.
like that event. Um,
They
so
had to do it because, ironically enough, it all circles back to Sonic Chronicles of the Dark Brotherhood
mhm,
because they used some of. They took a lot of inspiration from the Archie comics with that one, with like the Echidna clan that shows up, and then also there's like the SWAT bots, which they were in the Sat AM cartoon, but they were
yes,
used a lot more in the Archie comics as well. And so like Ken Penders was like the guy who wrote all of that stuff, especially with the echidnas, and he was like I feel like I should have been credited for this or whatever. So he sued uh, like BioWare, I think, and then it was
yes,
just this
it
whole
was a
shitstorm of
mess.
lawsuits. It
So
was a fucking
before we get to
mess.
that, because I think
Yeah,
I
let's.
want to end the podcast with that conversation because it's gonna be a
Yeah,
lot. So I want us to like
yeah,
start about what you know about the Archie comic, then we'll get into Ken Penders and the legal issues and all that.
yeah,
I guess like with the Sonic series in general, I'm excited to see what's coming now because there's a Netflix series coming out called Sonic Prime that's gonna deal with the multiverse. You know, like multiverse is the new I don't know the new sliced bread.
yeah. I
Is that the
guess
best way? Everybody wants
yeah
to fuck with the multiverse now. Um,
into the Sonic verse.
on top of that, you have Sonic Frontiers coming out, an open world game for the very first time in the Sonic franchise. I think honestly
Yep.
they were dabbling in the idea of doing that for Sonic 06. If you look at the old E3 videos of that, you see Sonic like running at the top speed through like this huge forest. And I was thinking that that's where they were going with it, but they probably scrapped that idea too. But that's just speculation.
Yeah.
And then you have the new Sonic movie coming out, which I think has generated quite a bit of hype considering the first one worked so well.
Yeah,
And
and then also, obviously, you got Idris Elba as Knuckles, and
yes,
you know everyone and their mother is like, "Oh, he sounds so hot."
I thought you weren't making that a sexy Knuckles, Idris. What happened? Um, so all of this stuff is coming up. There's a I don't know what this generation would be called. Like I guess like the little kids now is this Gen Alpha like 11 to 13-year olds or whatever.
I don't know. I think they're technically still Z until we get some new stuff.
Interesting. I'm thinking Gen Z. Well, the oldest of Gen Z is probably like their mid 20s, right? Mid to
I
late
Yeah, I mean like
20s.
I think oldest Gen Z is about my age actually.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
whatever this new generation is of like young teens and children, I think children would be alpha or whatever, but like this mixture of, let's say age is like 5 to, or maybe like 7 to 15, 16 right now.
Yeah.
Um, there's this new birth of Sonic hype right now, which is good for me because I have a Sonic channel, so that that works for me. Keep churning them out, moms. Come on, let's go. You know, like our millennial moms
Gotta
that love Sonic are probably teaching these kids, "Oh, I used to love him," and then they're like, "Oh, okay, cool. Mom used to love him, so I'm gonna play this game." And but I'm seeing a lot of that now. A lot of kids that grew up after '06 that remember games like Sonic Colors and Unleashed. Um, are grown adults now that are looking back fondly at that, and they're kind of taking up this mantle that I did, where I was like, yeah, I grew up playing these games and I loved the adventure series. I'm obsessed with those two games. Um,
yeah.
so we're seeing like this huge exodus of new Sonic fans, um, which apparently he's more popular than Shakespeare now. Which I don't know, I don't know what kind of metric that is. I don't know how popular Shakespeare was, but whatever. So with all of these
I'm
new
just
fans coming in, I think this is going to be a great renaissance with all of these intellectual properties coming out with Sonic on it. I'm excited to see how good that these do. I would love to see. I would love all of them to hit it out the park. I think the movie is going to be in safe hands. Um, the Netflix series might be trash. Who knows? or maybe a little too kiddish. I just want something that's very family friendly and like all ages type of deal.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with you, but I also want to just state that when you said that thing about Sonic being more successful than Shakespeare, I got this like mental image in my head of like Shakespeare's like Caesar play, the one that has like that I was picturing that but like with Sonic characters, and I see like all of Sonic's friends stabbing him, and then he goes et tu knuckles.
could someone draw that? We need that drawn.
God.
Like that's basically a meme waiting to happen. We'll put the news headline with the Shakespeare thing, and then we'll just put
Yeah.
that picture right underneath.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like this. I think there's gonna be a renaissance this year of new Sonic properties, and I'm hoping all of them knock it out the park because, I'm just tired of every new Sonic thing coming out, and then a YouTube video pops up, and it's like, man, the Sonic series has struggled to get on its feet. It's just there was a lot of great games within the last decade. Sonic Boom, I'm removing from that, but like, and Sonic Forces wasn't trash; it was all right, but the story definitely they look like they were gonna pay attention to it, and they just flubbed that. So I have a lot of opinions on that as well.
Yeah, having now played Sonic not Adventure, although I do have that and I should play it. Sonic Forces. Having now played Sonic Forces, I do think that the story was like the least interesting part of that, and I, funnily enough, I do think that the character customization was the most interesting part of the game itself.
That custom character they put a shitload of work on.
Oh yeah, they did.
Like to the point where I looked forward to their levels more so than like Sonic's levels.
Yeah, honestly, same.
um, which I honestly think I forget what was supposed to happen. I don't know if the custom character was like an afterthought, or I think that they built it around the custom character first, something like that. I'll have to
Something.
fact
I'm not
all
sure.
check all of that, but the musical tracks for the custom character all slapped. Um, Classic Sonic, I think, was just the worst part of it, and if it was just
Yeah,
Sonic and the custom
I
character,
agree.
I think that the game would have improved a lot more because they would spend more time on other levels for those two, and I think that would have been a good experience overall.
Yeah, I agree. It very much felt like Sonic, or like classic Sonic was just kind of thrown in there.
Yeah, he was
Honestly.
like this little Black Ops team. I don't even know what he was doing in the grand scheme of things. Now that I think back to the game, I forgot his impact on the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean he worked with Tails, and that's really all I remember.
Yeah, so they had their little Black Ops team going on where they were helping in the background and stuff. But
Yeah.
so I guess my point being, Sega has an opportunity to really just boost this character because you have like one of the best video game movies out there, unanimously agreed upon, right?
Yeah.
You have a Netflix series coming out that everyone's interested in, and I think honestly it's gonna kill it with the kids. Um, and then you have eyes on this new open world game with one of the top writers for Sonic Media, in my opinion, at the forefront. So they were listening to fans with that. There was petitions going around a while back to have him write the next game because the guys who were working on it before that kind of dropped the ball.
Yeah.
So now that he's like in charge of that, that sounds great to me. And on top of that, they've said that they were going to release the game last year, but they decided to take some more time to polish it and make sure that it comes out right.
That's always good to hear.
Yeah.
I like it when companies like state that they're gonna take their time with stuff. Like I was gonna reference the Y2K updates, but I don't know if I'm really allowed to talk about that. So instead, I'll say like like what's a good one? I was gonna say Cyberpunk, but no.
No, not Cyberpunk.
No.
I mean, a delay that you could put out there was Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild was delayed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Breath of the Wild was delayed a lot, and I think like it was delayed like maybe like 3 times, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 2. I think it was 2,
yeah.
and then there was like a
2.
mini bump at the end, like where it's going to be holiday, but then they pushed it to like January.
Yeah. So like 2 technically 3, 2.5. We'll compromise and say 2.5.
Mhm.
Yeah, but anyways, like it was delayed like that much times, and it ended up becoming like one of the most like successful games in recent memory,
Right.
and people are still talking about it and talking about how much they love it.
Persona 5's another one.
Yeah, Persona 5 was in
That
development hell for a while.
that shit was supposed to come out 2016. I think that was no, sorry, 2014. That shit was supposed to come out 2014.
Yeah,
I've been
and
waiting
it.
for that game for like decades.
Yeah.
Oh man. I remember the very first promotion, like they had like this 24-hour stream or something, with, like all this Persona like swag, and then they showed the little teaser at the end, and it's just a bunch of chairs with balls and chains on them, which
Yeah.
basically has not much to do with the current game. Like he does have that Velvet Room where he's in jail or whatever, but it really doesn't have that much bearing. Like I thought that it was going to be a much darker plot.
Yeah.
But I
It's
feel
like
that makes me feel like they didn't finish writing the story when they released that teaser.
probably, I don't know. I know that game went through some kind of development hell for a while.
Yeah, it was supposed to drop for PlayStation 3, so let's just put it
Well,
in
it did.
perspective that way. And it did. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did. But, you know, by then it was already on PS4, and that's the one that got advertised more.
But overall, I think that we got an amazing product. It's one of the slickest games that I've seen to this day, and like it runs very, very well. Everything looks super nice. And same with Breath of the Wild. And you know, like if you need that time to make that game leave an impact, I honestly hope that Sonic Team is doing a good job with this one. Um, One other thing I wanted to talk about was the timeline of affairs. So they've come out and said that everything in the Sonic universe is canon. Like they're just gonna take that route and just say all of it's canon. So
Oh,
there's so many different renditions of Sonic and like so many arguably multiverse moments. Like I think all the cartoons not canon. I think there's like just multiple versions of Sonic in this sense if you want to call it canon toward anything. I think the weirdest portion of the Sonic franchise to make sense of is like the classic timeline or the classic period.
yeah.
Because you have
I
the
mean,
first three games, if you read that lore, the Chaos Emeralds are all over the place. Um, and yeah, Eggman is just constantly like going to different islands, and Sonic is like hopping these islands that we never see again. You know, so like, except Angel
yeah.
Island, for instance. But
Well, yeah. Angel Island was deemed significant enough to become transcendent across all timelines.
right. So current head of Sonic Team Takashi Iizuka just does not dabble in the classic stuff at all. Like I feel like he just does not want to touch it. Um,
Yeah.
Based on his
Which
interviews, he's just like, I don't want these characters involved in modern day stuff because they're the classic, and we got to keep classic. He's being a huge purist about that.
I mean, fair enough, I guess, but you know, you could always like bring back Mighty and Ray as like a reimagined version of them or something.
Yeah, I mean, you could always do that like you did with the Chaotix.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of people consider the classics like everything before Sonic Adventure, but I would argue that Sonic Adventure is the last classic game. Because if you play that game, there's just a lot of references to Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Um, there's a reference to Sonic 2 in there when Tails has a flashback of when he met Sonic. Things like that. And like even when you play the game, it still feels very like Sonic like. It's like this weird translation from classic to like 3D. There's just a lot of references and a lot of like old school type of tie-ins in that moment in time. I think Sonic Adventure 2 is where they just parted ways with all of that. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure who was in charge of deciding it, but like that's the moment where just everything was the only thing that mattered in the classics was the Master Emerald, which was already established back in Sonic Adventure. So
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that's about right.
So yeah, like I mean, I bring up the timeline because I'm trying to make sense of everything, and even though it's one of those things very similar to Zelda, I don't think that Sega was really thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's why they really don't care now. Like everything is canon. Um, But honestly, I would love for them to, like, from this moment on, just take like continuity a little bit more seriously. Because I think overall, like, people love references like, oh well, those events did happen, and he's calling that out. You want to make it very newbie friendly too, like people that just buy a Sonic game or don't have to play like the last 10. I get that, but a little bit of continuity would be nice, and I think Sonic fans would appreciate that.
I think it's kind of like how Spider-Verse like made a reference to like the Peter Parker from the other universe. They made reference to how he could have done stuff that Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man did, but they didn't outright say that he was Tobey Maguire
Right.
Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Like they had the shot of him like saving the train and all that, but
Yeah.
aside from that,
So everyone loved that part, right?
yeah.
So, and it's good to speculate based around those references. Um, and not to say there are Sonic games that have continuity, like Sonic Colors to Sonic Generations. There was like a little bit of continuity there. The end of Sonic Colors, like Eggman is sent, you know, hurling into space, and he gets sucked into some wormhole or whatever. And you find out at the end of Sonic Generations that he finds some time eater creature in that wormhole, and meets up with his past self to, enact the events of the plot for Sonic Generations. So just little things like that I appreciate.
I find it interesting that Time Eater was, I think, at one point meant to be Mephiles.
Really?
From Sonic 06.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of elements of the Time Eater that are very similar to Mephiles if you look closely, especially like the whole like the general like dark body, but like the glowing purple on it, especially. Yeah.
I think we need some more good villains in the continuity. I feel like very similarly to Marvel, the Sonic has like this weird thing where they'll bring in new villains and they either suck or they're killed off too soon, or they just suck. I guess those are the two major points with that. But Mephiles is one that dies within Sonic 06. People look back at Mephiles like that was the best thing that 06 brought to the table. It was a great villain.
Infinite died in Forces.
Right, and has been written out and confirmed dead, by the way. And apparently in that Sonic Encyclopedia, which I'm still waiting for my copy because I know that's going to do wonders for my future videos. But he's been written out as dead. And then same with Chaos as well. Like Chaos was just an angry. Like I think if Chaos came back as a villain, it wouldn't really make sense because he's like an ancient god that was done wrong and had all this rage within him, and then that's quelled at the end of Sonic Adventure. So him coming back as a villain wouldn't really make too much sense,
unless he were like an illusion, like he was in Forces. But
right, or a memory like Sonic Generations, which that makes sense in both cases. But it's not him coming back. Literally.
That's another thing about Forces. You didn't even fight Chaos. He was in a cutscene and you never fought him.
Right. That was for like all hype. Come on. Like Sonic Team, you really did not want to make us fight him. Man. And then
man.
They had this big trailer. It made me so excited. I'm like, why are these villains against us? What's going on? Because they had this trailer with Infinite appearing, and then they showed like, all the past villains in the Sonic series like coming up against him and the others, and I'm just like, oh, this game's gonna slap. This plot looks amazing, and then they just drop the ball on it.
Yeah.
So, I guess that'll lead us to the Archie comics, right?
Yes.
So, I don't want you to summarize the whole series, but I guess like how'd you get into them? And
well, I got into them. You were still talking. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, how'd you get into them, and like, I guess what's the best way to sum them up?
Well, the best way to sum them up is fucking weird. But I got into them because I used to, as I mentioned in the last one, I used to like look up stuff on my like Nintendo 2D or like my Nintendo DS. How I had like the internet on it.
Yeah.
The DSi. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go on my DSi and I'd look that up. I just look up stuff, and I was a fan of Sonic, so I like looked into Sonic, and that led me to the wiki, and I just went down this treasure trove of like weird like random knowledge and stuff, and it got me into the comics. So like every time I would go to the library, I'd try and see if they had any Sonic Archie comics there, and they did. So I would often um, rent those from the library, you know. But yeah, that's how I got
And
into
did
them.
you start from the beginning?
No, hell no. I just kind of like went like out of order. I just got whatever was there.
Yeah, so
But yeah, and then like I eventually started reading some of them online as well.
as far as I know, those Archie comics are based kind of on the original Western cartoon, Sonic the
Yeah, they
Hedgehog.
were. Yeah, they were meant to be like a spin-off of the cartoon, and the cartoon got canceled, and they kind of took over.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I think the lead writer with that was our boy Ken Penders.
Yes.
If you
Who
guys are
we'll
not
talk
aware of Ken Penders, he basically created a lot of original characters within the Archie series and, kind of put
Yeah.
more personality to these guys.
Yeah,
And
and
now he's a guy that just raves on Twitter while Sonic fans attack him for everything that he says. But we'll
yeah,
lead into that
we'll
a
get
little
to
bit.
him. We'll get to him later. But like, I just want to kind of talk about some of the like not really storylines, but like a bunch of the characters and stuff that I really like from the Archie comics.
Yeah, let's talk about those because I'm not too familiar with a lot of the
Yeah.
spin-off characters,
Yeah. Well, I think I want to start off first with my favorite thing to ever come out of Sonic media, and that is the Zone Police. Are you familiar with the Zone Police at all?
No, I think these are I think we brought it up in a previous podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the Zone Police are like from like a dimension where like it's entirely based around like being a police force, and their whole shtick is that they go to other universes and take villains who are so bad that they are like too dangerous even for their world, and they keep them in their prison dimension, basically.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah, and the quirk with them is that all of their people there, their names always start with Z. So like the leader of the Zone Cops is Zonic the Zone Cop, and he's an alternate Sonic.
Okay.
And there's a therapist who works at the prison to help reform the prisoners, and her name is Zooge the Bat.
Oh wow. I
Yeah,
wonder who that's based off of.
yeah. And then there's two other Zone Cops that were shown, Zector and Zispio.
Okay, I see where this is going then.
Yeah. Um, but I think the best part about their dimension is that it's on a horizontal axis, or not horizontal, vertical.
Vertical
Which one's
axis. 'Cause-
vertical axis?
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
vertical.
yeah, yeah. It's on a vertical axis, which means that their entire gravity, for some reason, their gravity works differently when they go to other universes. So like Sonic goes to Sonic's universe, and he has to walk on walls and stand on trees and stuff because that's how gravity works for him. But Sonic goes to his universe, and he's like walking across Sonic's like computer terminal and everything.
Yeah, so I remember you
it's
telling me about it. I thought that was a
yeah,
pretty interesting quirk.
yeah, and it's like the only time that that's like really been an exception is if someone's like injured. So like how they would like collapse to like the floor or against a wall or something. I guess if like there's like a scene where Sonic is injured and he's in like another dimension that isn't the prison universe, and he's like walking around normally, or like I guess being carried normally, and gravity kind of stopped working for him. So I guess it's supposed to be like from his perspective, he's like constantly like collapsed against the wall in that sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So, was that a big plot line? Or is that just like kind of an
I
arc?
I think it was I think there was like a prison break arc once. I know that like I also know that like they in the zones that they had, they did like this whole like big Zone crossover where Sonic came in and they took out uh, Scourge,
Yeah.
Scourge, who at the time was just called Evil Sonic because he wasn't green yet.
Right.
And like after that, they like because like the whole point of that was that like they got every Sonic from every alternate universe together. But then it turns out later that like that wasn't the case because Sonic was had like universes that he didn't know about, like the Sonic Underground universe. They went to that one, and Sonic was like, "I don't know who any of you people are. What the fuck?" Yeah, and yeah, there's like obviously I mentioned Scourge just now. He was introduced as like an evil Sonic from another universe, and at first he was just Sonic, but he wore sunglasses and a like leather jacket.
Yes.
But then he got like corrupted by some kind of like chaos emerald radiation that turned him green. And during a fight with Sonic, he got like a like scratch across his chest, and so he became the edgy evil Sonic from Moebius as opposed to Mobius.
And so I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about Scourge recently because I think that there was like a group of people that wanted to make like some type of fan comic series about him or whatever, and a lot of drama like arose out of that. So I can't
Yeah,
speak on that situation entirely because I just glanced at it, but there's a lot of Scourge fans out there, and people are still wondering if Ken Penders has copyright over him.
yeah.
There seems to
I
be a
have no
weird
idea.
gray area there.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I know that he has like copyright over some other characters, like Robbo the Hedge, who is Amy's uncle, who is a hedgehog that is basically just Robin Hood. I'm not. You can't make this up.
You can't. I mean, I guess like I don't know. There was only so many different things that they could do. Like honestly, the IDW comics that are going on right now are more of my thing because they seem to
Yeah,
be a little bit more grounded. They haven't
yeah,
done too many ridiculous things as of yet. So
yeah,
like reading it has been an absolute joy. I love those comics, and they're done by Ian Flynn.
yeah.
But
I
like doing research for some of my videos and origin stories and stuff like that, like I have to go a lot into those Archie comics now. And I'm like, man, they did this.
I think the most. I think one of the most ridiculous things that come out of the Archie comics is the love triangle that was Sonic, Sally, and Monkey Khan. Do you
Who?
know who Monkey? Okay, strap in, buddy, because this is interesting. Monkey Khan is based on
Donkey
Sun
Kong?
Wukong. No, he's
Oh,
based
okay.
on Sun Wukong from Journey to the West. He has the cloud and he has the staff and everything.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
he appeared as like a villain who kidnapped Sally. I think if I could be wrong, but I think he kidnapped Sally with the intent of marrying her or something once, and then after that he just kind of became a recurring character and a rival to Sonic. And they had like this sort of weird love triangle going on between them for a while. And I mean, he was literally just Sun Wukong basically. That was basically his whole character.
I'm looking at a picture of him now. This definitely Sun Wukong.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this gives me a great idea because beyond this podcast, I'm thinking we talk about like at least one weird story point in Archie
Yeah.
comics per podcast. Like it doesn't have to be long, just like a quick segment toward the end
Yeah,
or something.
I could refresh myself when we could do that, or we could like even maybe I don't know do it like a video on your channel or something if you want.
Yeah, because there's a lot of
Yeah,
weird stuff here. Um,
yeah,
so I guess like
um,
there's just way too much to talk about plot wise with this, but
yeah,
just understand like the Archie comic probably covered everything under the sun that you can
yeah,
imagine. It
and
was a very long running series.
yeah. I think
Um,
there is just one more thing I want to bring up because I know that Archie fans will be screaming at me if I don't, and that is the character of Mammoth Mogul,
I
who
know about this guy.
yeah, yeah, he's an anthropomorphic mammoth who is like frozen, and dude straight up looks like a pimp. I'm not even gonna lie. He he's got the white suit, he's got the cane, he's got like everything, and he like basically came out on the scene and ran things like a mob boss business kind of for a
So
while.
like Kingpin, for instance.
Yeah, he was kind of like Kingpin, but like uh, crazy and got into weird Chaos Emerald cosmic stuff, and Knuckles turned green
So
and stayed green for a while.
strangely enough, like I brought him up in my most recent video. I did an origin video on Mighty and Ray.
Yeah.
Apparently, this guy gives Mighty his super strength.
Yes.
They didn't talk too much about him like after that, but that is somehow he gives Mighty those powers.
Yeah, because I think like his thing was that he got like godlike powers from an emerald or something in the past, if I recall correctly. It's been a while.
So Vandal
so-
Savage.
Kind of, kind of, I guess.
So I guess like back in those times, they had the leeway to do whatever they want, and
Yeah.
Ken Penders was writing all these original characters and tying them into like Sonic's continuity, somewhat separate from the games, but then sometimes there'd be game tie-ins and things like that. Now let's let's use the last little bit to talk about what's going on with that.
Yeah.
Our boy Ken was very protective of these characters,
Yes.
and I believe this was Sonic Brotherhood that caused this whole case.
Yeah, Sonic Chronicles Dark Brotherhood. He was he had this storyline about Knuckles like Echidna clan, because the whole point of Knuckles is that he's the last of his kind, right?
Right.
But in the comics they revealed that his clan had just gone into hiding and he wasn't the last of his kind, he just thought he was. And so they brought in his clan and stuff like that, and there was like the I forget what they were called, but like there was the evil version of his clan and stuff too.
It was like the
And
Dark something.
the
or
Dark
other.
Legion.
Dark
The
Legion.
Dark Legion.
Right.
Yeah, the Dark Legion, and BioWare took inspiration from that to create the Dark Legion that was used in Sonic Chronicles The Dark Brotherhood. And Ken Penders saw that and said, I wrote that. I should have been credited. You didn't credit me. I'm suing you. And that caused a legal shitstorm.
So BioWare was involved in that, and then I think Archie was definitely involved in that, and
Yeah.
Sega was involved in that.
Basically, what it happened, a series like this. Ken Penders sued BioWare for using his characters that he made, and then Archie sued Ken Penders because they own the rights to the characters, and then Ken Penders sued Archie because he said that the way his contract works made that so that way he owned all those characters actually, and then Sega sued Archie because technically all those characters should have belonged to Sega
Right.
and not Archie. So it just became this whole big mess.
It was a huge mess. Somehow,
Yeah.
Ken won. The judge was on Ken's side.
Yeah, somehow. I don't know how.
I don't. It seems very like, yeah, we are giving you the rights to make a comic with our characters, and somehow the judge says, "Oh, those characters belong to you." That was
I think it was like a loophole in his contract or something.
yeah. That's kind of close to like the point where you almost lost like your whole IP.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, we found out that a lot of those characters that he took with him don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Like a lot of the Knuckles Echidna clan that he wrote belong to him.
Yeah.
But the main Sonic cast, definitely not. And even
No.
like, Sally and Bunny and all those people like from the Freedom Fighters from the show, Sega still owns the rights to those, etc. And,
Yeah.
they're probably not going to be using those characters. But recently on Twitter, Ken put out this is a list of every character that I own from the Archie comics. And everybody's like, oh, so we're not really missing much anyway. So,
Yeah.
so he's like, and that doesn't include the people from the Knuckles family, so I'm going to put that out real soon. I mean, you said you saw an interview where Ken seems like a pretty laid back and nice person, but like the way he carries himself on Twitter, he seems very petty and very very extra when it comes to like the Sonic franchise, because like he has not touched that story in like 10 plus years. And for some reason, he's still like on Twitter just claiming all this stuff, and it's wild.
I think he's got something wrong. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a weird obsession with it.
Yeah.
And I don't see, even if he does belong, like, have those characters, he can't really do much with them. Like, I think there's this weird gray area where Sonic could Sega could take him to court again if he
Yeah.
were to do anything like that. But, like, always on Twitter, people are like, well, it looks like they own the character. Like, Sega still owns X character, and he's like, I would love to see them try using that character. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's been like that since that lawsuit.
Yeah. That's weird. I don't know. It's like he's the only man in existence who has successfully made Sonic OCs at Sega and then taken them away.
So, I mean, that was the cause of a lot of mandates from Sega after that with
Yeah.
third parties. If anyone's
Yeah.
curious as to why there's not that many original, or why they can't use certain characters, or why Sonic can't have certain emotions or whatever, it's because there's like apparently this hidden mandate. I think Ian confirmed this like a few years ago.
Ian,
Yeah.
he like so basically what happened is like there was an arc. I don't know what the arc was about really because I'm not too familiar with IDW comics yet, even though Matt keeps hounding me to read them. But there was this storyline where Shadow was just kind of being a dick for no reason, and
Yeah.
yeah, Ian Flynn said like, I would have liked to make him like act reasonable in that situation, but I couldn't because of this mandate from Sega that says that he needs to be a dick at all times.
Right, which is weird because he's not really like that in the games either.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the arc you're talking about was, I think, the second major one in the IDW comics. There is this virus that is created by Eggman that slowly turns all the inhabitants of the world into robot zombies of some sort.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
So I think that it was very well written because it's just like just all this angst from Eggman, and he just doesn't really
Yeah.
care. He's just like, all right, well, now I got to make this as contagious as possible, so go out there and spread it. And he starts spreading it everywhere, and it starts going crazy. Like everyone's getting infected and very early on in the arc, um, it's by contact, by the way. Like you can't spread it like through breathing or stuff. It's just like you have to touch another person and they'll catch it. Um,
Yeah.
so at very early on, like Sonic's fighting two infected people who are on Eggman's side, and he gets got, and he spends the whole time having to run as fast as possible to burn off the virus. So like he can keep it at bay much longer than a lot of people, but you'll see like that he gets extremely exhausted by running around constantly. And you see him actually starting to feel demoralized with the whole situation, and more people start to get infected in the main cast. So finally, you have Shadow, right? Where
Yeah.
you see him like, okay, well, Sonic's like, hey guy, let me warn you, like, do not let them hit you, or don't let them touch you, because then you're going to churn. And he's like, I don't have to listen to you. And like he starts fighting off, and he's like, bro, I'm just telling you right now, like you're more used to us alive, like you should run from this horde. And then he does not take the advice, and he's like, whatever, I'm fine. Gets hit immediately, and then immediately turns after a while. Like, doesn't even run it off like Sonic or whatever. Just, like, in the quickest way possible. So that's why, like, Ian got a little bit of backlash, because it's like, well, why is he such a dick, number one? He's not listening to Sonic, who he knows can be trusted in situations like this. And then, two, like, he's not even being intelligent and analyzing the situation for himself. He's just fighting.
Yeah.
So indirectly, you can thank Ken Penders for that, because Sega's like, this is exactly how these people need to be. If you're gonna write it this way, they have to be like this, and go ahead and write a story around that. So I'm hoping that now they'll be a little bit more lax with Ian writing in the main series, because they can direct that however they want. I think those mandates are only for like outside media.
Yeah, and that makes sense because, like, a lot of that crazy stuff was happening in, like, comics and stuff, so it makes sense why they would want to contain that.
Right.
And, like, yeah, and, like, when they started, like, reversing, like, or, like, doing those mandates in the Archie comics, you could like tell that like something was going on because they had to like do some stuff like they were like, oh, Charmy B has to be like 8 years old. He cannot be like an adult or anything like that. But in the Archie comics, at that point, he was like not only a king, but he was married and like 30 or something. So they had to do this storyline where he like gets uh, like aged back into a child, and his like now ex-wife was distraught and kind of had to become his caretaker because he didn't remember her.
Right.
Yeah, and it was like really dark, kind of. And but yeah,
But that's the reason that they had that whole Super Genesis wave retcon.
yeah,
This is a huge
which,
event in the Archie comics where all that
yeah,
lore that they wrote, they kind of, I guess, Flashpoint
had
paradoxed it in the best way I can explain if you guys
yeah
are DC fans.
yeah they did a crossover with Mega Man, and then Mega Man reset the universe.
And then everybody came out more like their game counterparts after that.
Yeah,
And then I think that's when
Yeah.
Ian started really writing for the Archie comics before moving to IDW when it was discontinued.
yeah, I think that's what happened.
So yeah, that was a lot of information.
Yeah,
I don't even know
Yeah,
if we
that
like
was-
communicated that because I know like my thought process is all over the place especially when I talk about Sonic because there's so much. It's hard to really
I
be cohesive on the topic.
yeah, I totally get you. Maybe that was just a rambled mess, but hey, at least we did the Sonic episode.
The point is I'm looking forward to what's to come right now. Comics are pretty solid. The movie looks pretty solid. Let's hope that Netflix series is pretty decent. I would love to see them explore like all of these things that we just talked about, like this multiverse of other Sonics.
Yeah,
And then this game, if they knock this out the park, I think that this franchise will be in really good shape. So
Yeah, I
here's
think-
hoping.
yeah, I think Sonic is in good standing right now, and I hope that everything goes well in
So-
the future.
That's our Sonic podcast then.
Yep,
We'll definitely be talking about him more in the future because I don't think we got to everything. But this one's dedicated to it. If you guys want to hear more of this stuff and you want us to ramble about it, just leave a comment. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know, and if there's any other series that you think we like that we would like to do an episode on entirely, then just let us know. I know I could probably do an entire episode on Pokemon.
I think we should do a Mario one too,
Yeah, we could totally do a Mario
and
one.
like DK by extension. So like Mario and DK because I'm pretty sure they're in the same
Yeah.
universe.
Yeah. All right.
Take us
You have
home.
anything else? Yeah. Thank you everyone for watching. This has been episode 6 of Whatever, Whenever, and we hope you enjoyed, and we will see you all later.
Peace.